Welcome to One on One. I'd just like to thank our presenting sponsor, Business New Hampshire Magazine. Today I have Josh from LHR Fire Protection, and this should be a great show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Alex.
How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's good to be here. I'm
This is
excited.
gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so there's a lot to get into,
Yes.
but I like to start. So the way I like to do this show is I want to talk to you about kind of where you got your excitement for business from.
Sure. So for me, it started when I was young. My grandfather was very much so an entrepreneur. I got to see it firsthand when just the way he interacted with his business, the way he thought about business. He owned land surveying companies in Connecticut, and just to watch him, just to do his everyday business and to think and just how he conducted himself and how he made his decisions that a business owner would make. He was very transparent with me. He let me know like what it cost, the cost of doing business. But in return, I got to see what that provided, which was a great life for his family.
Yep.
He got to make a huge impact in his community. His employees, he treated his employees well. And that's kind of where I got the bug for business ownership is, I saw that and I was like, that's something that I want to be able to provide for my family. And at the time, I actually thought I was going to just take over his business. But his two sons, who ended up getting the businesses from him, thought differently. So the businesses ended up going to them, which is understandable. But I just saw what it was able to do for him, and it provided a great life. It has its ups and downs, just like anything else. But it just worked out really well. And that's kind of where that was my first experience to business ownership.
That's awesome.
And that was at a young age. So he actually started as a farmer.
Oh, wow.
He ended up selling all this land to the town in Trumbull, Connecticut, where he lived, and used that money that he got from selling that land to invest in starting his business.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So when you were leaving high school, is that when you found out that the business wasn't going to be yours, or was that during college?
So, I mean, I actually did work for my grandfather a little bit when I was, 12 or 13 years old. Kind of worked for him, just doing stuff around the office. He had an office building that they let me, do like landscaping and stuff like that, little piddly things. And so I worked for him for a little bit, and that was great. I spent my summers down there. We lived up there. We lived in New Hampshire, and they lived in Connecticut. So we would take a trip, and I would just stay with this whole summer with them, with my grandmother,
Oh,
my
cool.
grandfather, and I would work for him, just doing stuff that a 12 and a 13-year-old would do. And like I said, that's kind of where he explained to me what it takes to run a business, and I quickly found out when I was young that no, it's not something that your grandfather just gives you.
Yeah.
That you have to work towards it. But while I was in high school, I actually got this idea that I wanted to be a firefighter, a full-time firefighter. So I went that path. Going through high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a firefighter. And I went to school. I went to Lakes Region College.
Oh, yeah.
To get my degree in fire science, and I got my degree in fire science there. And I got on the president's list. I did really well. That's where I got a scholarship to Southern New Hampshire University, where I met you.
Oh, cool.
And I went to school at Southern New Hampshire University. I got a degree in public service. So I was still going through that fire department route. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do firefighting. And then, with my days off, I'll do a business or something. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet, but I was like, with my days off, I'm gonna do business. I'm gonna own some type of business. So I was actually a firefighter while I was in school.
Oh, really?
I was.
The whole time?
Yep. Since I turned 18, I was a firefighter up in Guilford, and I was a firefighter there for 2 years. And then once I graduated from Lakes, I was a firefighter in Goffstown. And I was a firefighter there for 5 years.
Is that due to the schedule that you're able to do that because of the working 24s?
Yeah.
And then having, 2 or 3 days off, so you were able to line your schedules up for that?
So in Guilford, I
classes?
actually did a weird thing. It was a contract where I literally worked 2 weeks as a firefighter. And while I was there, because Guilford is right next to Lakes.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I was going to school. But I was working 2 weeks in a row, 24 hours at the fire
Whoa.
department there. So it was a very hectic schedule. It was very hard, but I cut my teeth I got a lot of experience being a firefighter there.
Yep.
Got to see all kinds of things most people probably wouldn't see in their life. Just the territory that comes with firefighting.
Right.
And it was a great experience. But I found out then that this is not something I'm going to want to do for a full-time career.
Right.
My whole life. So that's when I got into the call department scene. But after I continued to, going to college, to get my bachelor's in public service. It was after I graduated where I actually was a private investigator for, I think it was 2 hot months.
So you completely stopped being a firefighter.
So I stopped because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I had these dreams of, working my 24-hour shifts, having my 4 days off, and it just wasn't what I thought it was. The politics in it and stuff, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's great for some people. It wasn't for me. So I stopped firefighting pretty much altogether. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something in private investigation. So I was hired by a private investigation firm, did that for 2 months. They had me driving all over the state, and it was not what I thought it was. It's very boring. Yeah. Typically what you would think of a private investigator, didn't do much.
No solving special crimes.
No, it wasn't cool like that. It was, watching people and making sure they weren't doing anything, psychotic, pretty much, from a car or at a hospital. It was nothing that you would think of.
Yeah, nothing super exciting.
It wasn't the cool stuff they see on TV.
Right.
So I did that for 2 months, and then the way I actually got into to fire protection was I had an acquaintance who is actually now my lead foreman on who works for me, but we'll get into that later. He said, "Hey, if you're really tired of this private investigation job, why don't you come try fire protection?" So I did. I gave my notice to the investigation firm that I was working for.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of got started with fire protection.
And so how long did you work for that company?
For the fire protection company?
The new fire protection company.
I worked for them for 5 years.
Wow.
And that's where I learned the trade. That's where I learned how to do fire protection. And while I was there, I excelled pretty quickly. I picked up I moved through the ranks pretty fast to where I was a foreman. I was actually one of the fastest promoted in the history of the company, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's the biggest company, fire protection company in New England.
Oh, wow.
So
they have a huge footprint.
Oh, absolutely.
They have a lot of employees.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth, and that's where I learned the trade. And that's when I just through working there, I saw places where I think things could be done a little bit better, with just specifically customer service and just in the way they did business. And like, who am I? Like, I'm nobody, but I just figured, I think I can maybe run a better business. But at the time, I hadn't had the opportunity yet, so I just I continued as my job, doing my job as a foreman.
Yep.
And it got to a point where other people were approaching me saying, "Hey, Josh, I want to open up a fire protection division of my company." People who weren't involved in the company that I was working for at all. They just knew me, or they saw me on a job or doing whatever, and they just said, "Hey, have you ever thought about opening a fire protection division or opening your own business or anything like that?" And I said, I actually have. And one day I called my brother-in-law saying, "Hey, I have all these guys who are asking me to start a fire protection division with them." And that's when he was like, "Hey, why don't we do it?" And my brother-in-law is he has LHR Plumbing and Heating, and LHR Plumbing and Heating was actually around for 5 years now, but they were around. He had a decently successful company already, and he was like, "Well, you know what? Let's open up a fire protection division." So that's how LHR Fire Protection has started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so how many years ago was that?
That was a year and a half now.
Wow. So
Yeah.
So you guys have, so going back just a little bit, are you still a firefighter now?
I've recently taken a sabbatical from firefighting just so I can focus on the business.
Was there a time where you went back? And so were you doing both at any point again?
I was.
Okay.
So I was. For a time, I was doing the call firefighting and the fire protection. It wasn't until recently where I said, I'm going to take a break from firefighting, at least for now. I want to focus on the business and, time with family and
Right.
stuff like that.
I assume that's a good sign. That means things are heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
So how quickly did you see growth with the company? I mean, was it immediate? Because if people were already approaching you, asking you for this, those must have been your first calls.
So yeah, it was really cool how it happened. It's kind of like a confirming, It's like I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not sure. When you have people coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want to use you for my fire protection," or "Hey, I want you to run my fire protection," it's kind of confirming,
Right.
So it was really cool. I had multiple people just say, "Hey, let's do this," and right from day one, we had customers lined up.
Awesome.
We didn't have to. It wasn't a thing where we had to, invest a bunch of money and then hopefully go out and find the customers. We had the customers who said, "When you start this, we're number one. We want you to service us first."
Amazing.
And that helped us get started. Right out of the gate, we were doing jobs for customers. So
That's fantastic. So how many guys did you start with?
we started with me and my brother-in-law.
Nice.
It was me doing the work. It was my brother-in-law was he actually financed the start of LHR Fire Protection. So without him, LHR Fire Protection wouldn't exist. So definitely
we owe him a big thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And he is managing partner. So without him, he was the wind behind the dream.
Yeah.
It was just him and I. It was me going to look at the jobs and then doing the jobs. We have now since hired a few more guys.
Awesome.
To where I can be in the office running the office jobs more and focusing on clientele relationships. And I believe that relationships is a huge part of why we're doing as well as we are.
I mean, I think that customer service is absolute everything.
Yeah, you would know.
I think, it's so important. And I think it's important for any business. And, what I find, and I've never interacted with any other sprinkler company other than yours. So this has nothing to do with any other sprinkler company. But I've called plumbers before. I've called electricians before. And part of it is due to the fact that they're overwhelmed with phone calls.
Yeah.
But the customer service is generally pretty abysmal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you find someone who's not only nice to you, but they're quick to respond and things like that, I mean, it's pretty great that you start using that company quite a bit.
Absolutely. And what I have always said is we're not the biggest company. We're not the best. We're not the we may not be the smartest, but what we do have is our customer service. I'll put up against anybody. We answer our phone calls. We return our phone calls. We're on top of things. We don't let things. We're not like we're not going to get as much money on that one. We're just going to kind of ignore that job, ignore that customer, and focus on this one who's paying us more. We treat all our customers with the highest respect, and we honestly try to help them out the best we can, whether or not we're going to get a job from them or not. We just try to help them out.
Well, you guys must be pretty close to the best because you're still winning jobs.
Yes.
So I mean, you definitely must be great because I don't think that you'd be winning jobs if you weren't as great.
We do a good job.
That's good.
Try to be humble about it, but we do a good job.
So something that's a little different for you is you're generally a B2B business. So you're not working with consumers. You're not going to people's homes.
Right.
Are people, are construction companies writing you Google reviews? Or is it just like within the circles of construction companies, people talk? Yeah.
So I think the way we kind of have gotten to the point that we're at, and we're still growing. Don't get me wrong. We haven't arrived, and I hope we never do.
Right.
But the way we've gotten to where we are is just, like I said, relationships, word of mouth. A lot of it is our customers took a chance on us, and they liked us that much where they're like, hey, you know what? Most of our customers say, you know what? You're my guy now. We do one thing for them to like, you're my guy. They don't even call other companies. They say, we're just going to go with you. We trust you. And a lot of that's being transparent. We do have some Google reviews. We also have Home Advisor and stuff like that where people can go on and actually write a review of our company. But most of it is word of mouth and just building that relationship with the customer.
Oh, that's really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I guess and are those guys generally telling other guys? So it's all word of mouth. I mean, everything in business is word of mouth. You can spend as much as you want on marketing,
Yeah, absolutely.
but if people aren't having a great experience, you know, what's funny is if someone has a bad experience, 10 people will find out. And if someone has a great experience, 2 people find out.
Absolutely.
But those 2 people are so important.
Yes, and it being in sprinklers, like fire protection, it's a small niche. I mean, it's not like it's, you know, a car dealership or anything like that. It's not like there's thousands of them out there, or hundreds of them out there. There's a few, you know. And when there's one bad experience, especially in our trade, everybody hears about it.
Everybody finds out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very easy to kind of hear what the talk is and stuff like that. But I can honestly say that, and we have great employees. And if it was for our employees, it wouldn't be the way it is. But we have great feedback from our customers, and our employees are the reason behind that. Nice. We wouldn't be able to do it without them.
So how many employees are you at now?
We have 5.
That's
5
amazing.
Employees.
So you went from 1 to 5 in a year and a half.
4 employees. Yeah.
4 employees.
Yeah.
That's still amazing.
Yeah.
So 1 to 4 in a year and a half. I mean, that's pretty great growth.
Yeah, it has been good growth, and we continue to grow. The joke is, we have to hire another guy. It's a good problem to have.
Right.
But we also want to scale at a reasonable pace. We don't want to just grow and then get stuck with having too many employees. We want to scale the business responsibly.
I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of companies try to grow too fast, and then something bad happens, maybe a small dip in the economy, something that's not even that serious, just a little lull, and that could crash a whole business if you don't have the cash behind you to handle it. Yeah,
absolutely. And something else that we're working on as we speak is this idea of becoming recession-proof. When the recession inevitably comes, we want to be ready, and we do that by just building up our service. Our service work. Yep. We have a lot of customers. We actually did some service work for you at this building.
It was fantastic.
Yep. And just stuff like that. Service never stops. New construction will stop, and that's kind of our thing. Is new construction. We're always busy with new construction now when the economy's good. But when the economy's not as good, new construction won't be happening, which means our business is it's gonna fall a little bit. But we need to be ready. And have those customers and do service for those customers, because service just doesn't stop. You have to have service on your fire protection systems yearly. So
by law.
By law.
Right, by law. Yeah. So people are forced. Yeah. Yes. There's only a few people to call. So if you're nice to them, that's a good group to get in with.
Right. Exactly.
And then because the goal for every business is to be recession proof. Especially since you have a very special family at home that you need to be taking care of, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You have 2 twins.
We have twins, Corbin and Caden.
Nice.
Corbin and Caden, and that's a story of itself. So Corbin and Caden, they're 3 years old now. They had a very rough start to life. Corbin and Caden. So when my wife was pregnant, we found out that we're having twins at 20 weeks.
Wow.
Because that's when they go in for the first ultrasound to see if it's a boy or girl, and while they're doing the ultrasound, they're like, "There's 2," and we're like, "Great, awesome, it's cool." So we're having twin boys. It was shortly after that where we found out it was going to be a very high risk pregnancy. Twin pregnancies are already high risk, but when they have this what they call twin to twin transfusion, it's an even higher risk.
So what is that?
That's when they have baby A and baby B. Mm-hmm. That's when baby B is literally passing all the nutrients to baby A. So passing all the blood supply, all the oxygen, all the nutrients that they're getting from the mother, they pass it to baby A. So Corbin, who was baby A, was literally twice the size of Caden, who was baby B. Caden was just passing along whatever nutrients he was getting from my wife via the womb.
Yep.
And so that what that caused is Caden didn't develop correctly. So when they were doing the ultrasound, they saw that Caden's heart was stopping; it was pausing, so it wasn't beating at all. And at that time, they're like, "We need to do a emergency C-section." So, that was actually, that appointment was in Manchester. The doctor said, "You don't have any time. You have to get up to Dartmouth Hitchcock right away, Dartmouth Hitchcock in Lebanon, or Boston Children's in Boston." and we decided to go up to Dartmouth, and we were there overnight. They were monitoring him and everything, and that's when they were like, yeah, this can't wait. He has chances of survival. Caden, which is baby B, the one that's heart wasn't beating. They said his chances of survival are better outside the womb than they are inside. So they said for his survival's sake, we have to deliver these kids now at 28 weeks, which is, full term is 40 weeks.
Right. So you're only halfway there.
Extremely early. So Caden was born at 1 pound 4 ounces.
Wow.
Which is, he was the size of my hand. And then Corbin was born at 2 pounds 5 ounces. So
wow.
Even though the average baby is born around anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds, they came out at 1 pound and 2 pounds, which started our time in the hospital for a year with Caden. Caden almost died multiple times. It got to a point a few times where they said there's just nothing else we can do. If he declines from here, he's probably going to pass away, and that's something that we had to come to grips with. And I'm a firm believer that. I mean, we've all heard the phrase, things will happen to you, things happen for you. Right. And I honestly believe, looking back at it now, and even we had to get to the point where we were okay if Caden did die. We had to get to the point where we were going to be okay with that and not let it destroy us. Right. Because there's definitely when your child is in that spot, it can either destroy you or it can make you. And I believe that we as people, when we are going through a hard situation, that we have a choice to make. We're either going to bowl through it or we're going to let it, set us back a pace.
Right.
And my wife and I have to give a lot of credit to my wife. She was the strength in all of it. I was crying and I was losing my mind, saying, how could this happen to us? We're good people.
Right.
But we had to come to terms with, we might lose him, and thankfully, thank God, he's alive, he's doing well today. But I'm glad that we went through that, because it relating all this back to business. If you can take something that happens to you and just look for the good in it and look for the lesson in it, you will be so much of a better person. And even though we went through that, I'm glad that we did. If we didn't, honestly, I don't think LHR fire protection would exist. Because in business, you face some hard times. There's some times where there might not be as much money in the account as you think that you should have, or you don't know if you can maybe you can't. Maybe there's times where you can't pay the payroll. And there's things in business where you're gonna have some hard times. There's gonna be some mess ups. There's gonna be some things that are
scary.
Scary, and those are the times where we as entrepreneurs, we need to just put our head down and keep going. We can't let it set us back. Yeah,
there's nothing you can do. I mean, in a situation in business, because I've never been through a situation like that, and I'm glad everybody's doing great. So they're 3 years old.
They're 3 years old. And I guess as an update, Caden had 5 or 6 surgeries. So part of his pre-development that he didn't have was he never developed his lungs. He had a problem with his heart, so they did surgery on his heart. I think it was within the first 5 months of his life.
Wow.
Like I said, they were in the hospital for a year, or he was in the hospital for a year. Corbin was only in the hospital for about 6 months, but he had to have surgery on his heart. And because his lungs weren't fully developed, he had to have a trach put in, which is a tube that they put down his throat to help him breathe. And he was hooked up to a machine for about a year after he was born.
And did that help him develop?
That helped his lungs to get to the point where he can breathe on his own now.
Great.
But because he had that trach, we had to put in a G tube, which is how we feed him. Which it's literally a tube that goes straight to his stomach, through his stomach, and we syringe out the food. We blend it up, use a syringe to feed him. And he still has that, but he doesn't have the trach anymore. We're working on him trying to get him to eat on his own without us having to syringe him or give him food via a syringe. Right. It's a struggle, but honestly, it all helps. It helped my wife and I develop as business owners, and again, I'm glad for going through it.
Gives you a lot of perspective, right?
Absolutely, and I'm so thankful to have that perspective. I really am.
And I mean, this must have had something to do with you starting LHR, because this is all happening. So they're only a year and a half.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this like, well, we're lucky to have them, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to do this. I have a chance. Let's just go for it.
Yeah. You know, it's this going back to my grandfather. I wanted to provide my kids with that, especially Caden, because he had such a hard start. I mean, he had such a hard start in life. I don't want my kids to be spoiled, but I don't want them to go without either. You know, like I want them to have a good life. And also my wife. My wife does a great job. She's not able to work because she has to be. Caden requires a lot of special care.
Right.
So she stays home. But I just want to be able to provide for them. And where I was working, it wasn't a bad. You know, I made decent money. But it wasn't going to allow us to thrive. It was going to pay us enough to survive, but it wasn't going to allow us to thrive. And that's something that I really believe that this has been able to kind of help me provide for my family. It's giving us stuff that we wouldn't have been able to have otherwise.
Oh, it's really amazing.
And it's been able to, and it's not just the stuff, but it's the lifestyle, you know, like if the other day my kids had a parent teacher conference, well, I went to it. You know, if I was working for an employer, I probably wouldn't have been able to get that time off, you know, at 12 o'clock during the day.
Afternoon. Yeah, probably not. No, you probably would have been at work.
So exactly. So it's not about the money for me as much as it is about the, you know, just being able to live the life that I believe that we should live, and to be able to impact the people that I think that we're able to impact.
I think that's amazing. Yeah. And I think your customers are showing you how much they appreciate you by continuing to help you guys grow, offering you new business, and I'm sure introducing you to new clients that they know that need your assistance.
Absolutely. And it just goes back to, you know, we get a lot those two customers, you know, that we do really well for. They'll pass our name along, but it really is more repeat work from the customers that we have than we do have new customers. And this is something that I need to work on as one of the business owners for LHR Fire Protection. Is I need to go out and get those new customers.
Right.
But we do have such a great relationship with the current customers that we have, that they continue to use us, and you know they don't look for that other person, which is great. But it is also a responsibility that we have to them. That I have to them to, you know, treat them right every time.
No, that's true, because otherwise, you know, and they're going to continue to use you as you do that.
Yeah.
So what does growth look like? What's the next 5 years of LHR look like?
So the next 5 years, with the plumbing and heating, those are growing steadily, which is great. But my brother-in-law and we do have our eyes on some new ventures that are coming up. We're probably going to be investing in some real estate in 2020,
nice,
which is cool. LHR Realty, be on the lookout for it.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and just continue to grow. Get more customers. Just do better for our customers that we have now. You know, and yeah.
And so the number one thing that you think that sets you apart is your customer service. So if somebody's watching this and they're getting bids, they should Is it email you?
Yeah,
directly?
Absolutely. They can email me. It's Josh at LHRFP, FP as in fireprotection.com. And LHR stands for local, honest, and reliable. And we honestly
fantastic.
We try to stand by that to the best of our ability. And I do believe that if you ask our customers, that they will say that we've been those three things. And you know, we have to. It's something that we have to be very conscious about. It is easy to get caught up in, you know. Oh, you know, it's easy to get content. You know, it's we're doing okay. You know, if we don't have to get to that customer. I don't need to call that customer back. They only want us. They don't want us to do a small job. We have to worry about these bigger customers. But really, it's calling every customer back. And I mean, we've had customers who call and they're like, oh, they do sprinklers. Well, not lawn sprinklers. We do.
I mean, that could be next. Yeah. That's like, it's got to be close, right?
Maybe LHR irrigation, you know?
Yeah.
But we've had those customers, and you know what? We'll call them back. We're like, hey, you know what? We don't do lawn sprinklers. We do the sprinklers that, like, for your building, like, you know, fire protection sprinklers.
Yeah.
But we'll call them back, you know, and we'll try to help them. You know, I don't know. I don't own irrigation, but I'll try to point you in the direction of someone who can help you. You know?
Right. Somebody you know has done it.
Customer service. And that one person who called for lawn sprinklers, they'll tell all their friends, you know, that, hey, if you need fire protection, like for the for building, call these guys. You know, they help me out. and it's really going the extra mile. I've recently just read these two books called Excellence Wins by Horst Schultz, and that's the guy who started the Ritz-Carlton.
Yep.
And the book was just about the idea of excellence in everything that you do, whether it's emails, your work, whether it's your employees, just the idea of cultivating excellence. And that's something that I'm trying to work on our employees with. It's just the idea of excellence and treating everybody with respect. It doesn't matter, how much they're spending on a job or how much they've given us. It's, we're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Right. And that's important. And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because it's one of those things where I rarely see today super honest businesses. I see businesses that are doing a good job, but I rarely see businesses that are doing really honest work. Yeah. And the way is that they're responsive, they're respectful, they're calling you back. And also they're just not always in it for the money. Now, everybody wants to live a lifestyle and everyone wants to grow their business. Right. But I know that you've done the same thing that I've done, which is sometimes you just do a deal just to make the customer happy. Absolutely. Whether you make $1,
yeah, absolutely,
or you just break even, but it doesn't matter because you're making them happy.
Absolutely.
And that will go 10 times further than a customer leaving and feeling like either they couldn't afford something or feeling like they didn't get the service they needed. So I teach my staff the same thing. Every budget matters, no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
It is. And it's funny that you say that. Before a couple weeks back when you and I were talking, we've had customers where we didn't make any money on that this time.
It happens a lot.
It does happen, but it's not necessarily about that one time. It's about the future. You don't want to. You see so many companies, and it's in anything, whether it's jewelry, fire protection, or car dealerships, whatever. Right. They make one deal, and it's a really good deal, but they ended up porking the customer, and they don't go back. I'd rather even lose money but get repetitive business in the future, where maybe we do a better job at bidding it, or we account for certain things that we forgot.
Right. That's the thing. It's the mistake. It's generally a mistaken quote. Right. And we stand behind it every time. You know what? And I've had it happen over and over again where you make that mistake and you do something for that customer, and then they bring you 5 more customers. Absolutely. They don't even know what happened. You don't tell, you don't need to tell them. They took great care of them. They got it at the price they wanted. Absolutely. And they'll bring you 5 more. I mean, it's honesty always works.
It's worth it. It really is.
Rather than calling people back and be like, oh, if it's like the day of, you can be like, oh, sorry. But, if it's made or the project started, it is what it is, man. It happens.
Absolutely. It does.
That's cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming by. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about LHR or anything else?
Give us a follow. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on the social media platforms. It's LHRFP for Instagram, LHR Fire Protection. And then also, shout out to LHR Plumbing and Heating. He is my brother-in-law, Angel. He is the reason why LHR Fire Protection exists. So shout out to him. To give them a follow, LHR Plumbing and Heating. He's a great plumber. Nice. He'll come out to your house and do you good.
We'll tag you both on Facebook and on Instagram. Follow One-on-One with Alex on Instagram and Facebook, and share Josh's story. Help grow the business. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, man.